All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the third episode of the College Loop podcast. Joined again by Mr. Harrison Tarr. I'm pointing the wrong way. Daniel Locke, and of course, me as your host, Dylan Larck. We're going to talk a little bit about football today, not as much as we like to, but we have two big games coming up with SEC play starting for both basketball teams. So just getting it started with football, we talked about Hudson Card a little bit in the last episode, talking about quarterbacks that could just be brought in, but Hudson Card just committed to Purdue. So I think we're all on the speculation that if it's not Spencer Sanders, it's just Robbie Ashford's job, like flat out. Robbie's starting quarterback for Auburn next year. We all agree on that?
Yes, but I'm going to bring up two names real fast. I want to know what you guys think. All right, Brennan Armstrong from Virginia. What we thinking?
I knew this was coming. I don't know. The Virginia situation is weird. I mean that in the most respectful way. It would not surprise me for him to withdraw his name from the portal and return to UVA. And also at the same time, I think he's got a ton of upside. I don't know if he's SEC ready, and I certainly think that I don't know that that's a situation where you waste a year of Robbie Ashford's eligibility. I don't know if that's necessarily the case there. And like I said, the Virginia situation is as terrible as it was this year. That's a pretty tight-knit team, and it wouldn't surprise me if Brendan Armstrong was really just kind of testing the waters to see where he was at stock-wise right now, to just return to UVA. And if you see the lights in the background, watching Monday Night Football. So
I think he's on the same lines as Tyler Van Dyke. He was a big-time quarterback for the ACC. Like both those guys were all ACC quarterbacks. Both had a very disappointing 2022 season. Brennan Armstrong, I think he has the talent, but I don't think, like what Tarr said, I don't think he's SEC ready. I don't think he's any better than Robbie Ashford is right now, talent wise. I think, especially with the upside you have with Robbie Ashford, I think if you're not going to get Spencer Sanders, and if you're not going to get Grayson McCall, I think Robbie Ashford is your guy, and the goal should only be picking up older transfer quarterbacks who probably are just going to be there to help Robbie mold, not guys you expect to start, just guys who are just looking to join a team and help mold a young quarterback.
But how about Luke Altmaier? Sorry, Dylan.
I'll talk about Altmaier for a second.
I knew this was coming.
I'm just gonna no.
No.
That's all I'm gonna say is no.
I have a rebuttal if you have 2 seconds. This one would make a little more sense. If Altmaier's willing to sit behind Ashford and develop, this one make a little more sense. Eligibility-wise, I think that's where it gets cloudy, right, and a little hazy, because I don't necessarily think that Ashford's going to be a 2-year and then to the draft kind of guy. If he is good, power to him.
We can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be the best case scenario for Auburn, right? But
for sure. This
one makes a little more sense. It feels more a little bit like a Finley move, if that makes sense, like adding TJ to that room when Bo Nix was still at Auburn. It kind of made a little more sense that way. But also, I'm just not entirely sure that the situation at Auburn is what Luke Altmaier's looking for.
I would say Altmaier was class of 2021, so he's about the same age as Robbie Ashford. Also, if he's not going to be willing to sit down, he had to sit a year behind Matt Corral, which obviously why he had to do that. And this year, of course, he lost starting job to Jackson Dart. So I think he's not going to be looking at any other place where he's going to compete for any job. He's an Ole Miss guy, so I don't want to say it, but Ole Miss players tend to have a little bit of an ego to them, especially at the quarterback position. Being a bench warmer for another year is not on his radar at all. And to look at other oh no, go ahead, Daniel. You got it.
I was going to bring up a different guy. If you have anything else to say on Altmaier, say it.
No, on Altmaier. That's all I got to say.
Okay. All right. A receiver I really want from the UNCC, Montgomery, Alabama native, Grant DeBose. 6'3", 200 pounds. I want this guy bad. Any read?
Run by me again. What's his name?
Grant DeBose.
Is he ranked on the 24/7?
I just went to transfer portal receivers and read and picked a couple who I thought would make sense.
I like this fit a lot. I heard some rumblings earlier today. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the receiving room probably looks like what it's going to look like right now. I think that we're close on that front. It would make sense. You could probably restructure a scholarship somewhere else in terms of delegating that elsewhere. And you can't restructure contracts. That's not the way I meant it to sound, but you know what I mean? You could build your roster elsewhere if there was mutual interest. I don't think there's a ton of interest in the Freeze camp. So I don't necessarily know on that front, but it would make sense. And the frame is chef's kiss.
I can throw up another receiver for you, Daniel. How about Dante Thornton from Oregon?
Knew this was coming.
You bring in a guy like Robbie Asher from Oregon, you send off Bo Nix to Oregon, and guess what? We're like, you know what? We want a little bit more in the trade. DJ James got him. Now, how about one of your receivers that y'all didn't really utilize that much from a star-studded wide receiver core?
You're too busy throwing the ball to tight ends that are literally 37 years old.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Dante Thornton is one of probably the best available wide receiver besides, I believe, Dante Cephas is his name, who is currently crystal ball to go to Penn State.
Now, let's not forget there's going to be some stuff open up after bowl season.
Very true.
That's going to wind up shaking things up a little bit. I feel on a scale from 1 to 10, probably about a 6 good about this wide receiver room being what it's going to look like come spring ball at least. And I remember this would be another wave when kids graduate and they can enter the portal and figure out what that looks like. But I think that we're close. 60% is the best I can give you right now because in the world of the transfer portal and the NIL, you never know.
Yeah. Transfer work will really double tomorrow if it so insists. Another guy we've been hearing about is Dylan Johnson, the running back from Mississippi State, who if you've on Twitter at all, you know, he kind of blew up because he's from Mississippi State. So he announced via letter that he's transferring, and he had a little beef with, rest in peace, Mike Leach, but he had some beef with Coach Leach saying that Coach Leach didn't think he was tough enough. But Tarr told me today that apparently Dylan Johnson is a potential running back pickup after last week where I said Auburn could be looking towards a running back. Just want to throw it out there.
I wanted to talk about this one for just 1 second, and then I'll let you guys kind of do whatever you need to do after this. Well, I mean, I've got one more guy to talk about before we jump to basketball, but you know what I mean. Dylan Johnson really hasn't had eye-popping numbers in his first few years at Mississippi State. I think that there will be interest just because he was a 3-star per 24/7 Sports, high 3-star, 88.3 composite. He's out of Greenville, Mississippi, so Auburn's local. It's not far. And it makes some sense, but at the same time, you know, Daniel and I talked about this last week. I was a little blown away, I guess last week being 2 days ago, on Christmas. But I would be more surprised to hear Auburn adding running back talent to the portal than I would if there was none. That being said, this roster needs a ton of work. There's a ton of open scholarships. And I guess if that's what Freeze and Company thinks is in best interest of the program, that's what'll happen. I think that certainly if it's going to be within conference, Dylan Johnson to Auburn makes a lot of sense. His frame 6'0", 192. I guess that's probably not updated. Let me double check that one more time for you. Let's rock 6'0", 215 since he's been bulked up at Mississippi State. That may have a whole lot more sense just looking at his frame. So my apologies for misspeaking there. Runs behind his pads, kind of a bigger back, which Jarquez and Damari. I'm still in the Bigsby mindset, but Jarquez and Damari Alston really don't have that same edge. So that's an interesting kind of power back concept there, but we don't have enough film. So I don't really know there.
It would be interesting to see because Dylan Johnson is currently the second rated running back on 24/7, which I brought up last week with Marshawn Lloyd, who he has a shorter frame. He's more of a bulky guy. He would be more of a power runner as well, just because of how bulky he is. But yeah, I mean, you get an SEC back, bring him to another SEC school. I mean, he's already built for the SEC. I think Dylan Johnson, I think the lack of tape comes from him coming from an air raid system.
Right.
Like, he's not going to be getting like 15 carries a game. Especially, he wasn't even the starting running back on the team. That was Jaquavius Marks was starting running back from Mississippi State. But I mean, Dylan Johnson would be a solid pickup. Jarquez would be the starter, but it gives Damari Alston another year to kind of be that guy. But I mean, it shakes up. Yeah, and maybe this could be something with Jeremiah Cobb picking up the running back.
I don't panic yet. I've been given no reason to
I'm not
panic.
panicking, but Auburn has been one with having at least 3 good running backs per team.
Right.
So you're like, well, maybe getting Dylan Johnson is maybe it's a little bit of pressure on
No need,
Jeremiah Cobb to
no need
sign.
to panic yet. But if you're okay with, I know that you're the host here, Dylan. I want to roll a little bit here. I did have another transfer target that I wanted to mention while we're kind of on this topic. And Daniel, if I'm cutting you off, please feel free to jump in because God knows I gave you a fit on Christmas Day, and it's my fault, and I'm sorry.
That was the Harrison Tarr episode.
It was the Harrison Tarr episode. And I'm sorry.
I was just worried that my Wi-Fi was going to drop any second. I wasn't really worried about anything else.
I wanted to talk a minute about Jarrett Kingston out of Washington State. 3-star inside offensive lineman. And obviously does his work on the interior, 6'5", 300, big boy. And that's what they had him listed at. They've got him at 6'5", 302 now. So they put a couple extra pounds on him out there in Wazoo. But there's a lot of reason to believe that he's going to be seriously entertaining Auburn. He entered the transfer portal just over like a week ago. I guess when this comes out, a week ago yesterday. But I think that this is an interesting, perspective because Auburn at this point, if they land another transfer offensive lineman, which I believe a lot of us think is going to happen.
Yep.
Freeze and company really meant it when they said they're going to come in and work on the trenches.
Yeah. And you give us one lineman. I'm going to give you another offensive lineman. One of the best rated one available right now is Gunnar Britton, Western Kentucky offensive tackle. I said it last episode. All SEC offensive line coming to Auburn.
I don't know that Gunnar Britton is serious about Auburn.
Probably not. I just was writing down names I was interested in,
and that's fair. That's why we make a big board, right?
Yeah.
The long list, not the short list. I just from what I've heard, his camp's, I guess, NIL now. You'd say his camp, right? His camp's not a ton of interest on the plains. I also think that there's some interesting conversation going on with Onto Victory that we'll have to talk about probably later in the week on the Thursday episode. But very curious to see where that leads. Also, keep in mind Onto Victory is in its infancy stage, so it's going to play a factor in a lot of these guys. Something to keep an eye out on, both on the line perspective, but more so than anything, skill positions.
Factual.
What about Damian George from Alabama? That's what I'm talking about.
That's a whole other episode. That's a whole other episode.
I'm gonna throw out 2 more transfer guys, and it's strictly because I brought on my Syracuse hat for today's episode. Talk about 2 guys, just boost Auburn's secondary up a little bit more. Jahard Carter, 4-star safety, and one of my favorite names, Deuce Chestnut, cornerback from Syracuse.
Great name.
Outstanding name.
Auburn's got dogs. That's where I'm.
We do have dogs, but Auburn Legion of Boom. Hear me out.
Daniel, please feel free to chime in.
Here's are JD Rhyme and Austin Osbury ready to start right now?
Yes.
No.
Osbury is too.
Daniel and I have been watching different film and reading different things. And you know what? One of us is going to be right during spring ball. And we're just going to have a live episode of me and Daniel side by side at A-Day.
We'll go live for that game because I'm pretty sure
I'm so down.
Be live on both Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah,
but
that'd be fun.
I also there's another corner that's ready to play now. Don't get me started. He's an early enrollee in the spring.
I agree. He's ready to go.
I can only imagine who he's talking about.
He may or may not have flipped from a school in the college football playoff right now.
All right. Well, to get Tarr from talking about that specific cornerback for another 20 minutes, we're going to move on to the another sport going on right now is basketball, and we're going to have to split up. You want to talk about women's basketball first or men's basketball first?
Live. This is the first ever the college loop rock paper scissors on air. All right. Well, let's see.
All right, Daniel.
Winner goes first. Scissors. Ready? Rock paper scissors shoot. All right. Men's basketball first.
All right. Talking about men's basketball. So SEC play starts for men's basketball on the 28th. That is that is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It'll be at 6 p.m. in Neville Arena. Get your tickets. Number 20 Auburn versus the Florida Gators. Tarr, what does Auburn need to do to win this game?
All right, so first things first, before we get into the nitty-gritty about what Auburn does to win this game, let's get familiar with the opponent, and that's going to play into everything, right? So Florida is quite middle of the road this year. They're not going to be a tournament team, barring something crazy happening in the SEC, tournament or SEC play. They're going to probably have to win the SEC tournament in order to go to the big dance. Mm-hmm. Colin Castleton, who we discussed last episode, has got to be 35 by now. This is all jokes, but Colin Castleton is the Florida team. He leads them in points, rebounds, steals, blocks. The only thing he doesn't really lead them in is assists. And at forward, I'd be concerned if you did. 15.8 points a game, 7.6 rebounds a game. He's a big dude with a frame of, shockingly hasn't grown because he's a million years old, 6'11", 240. But he is the Florida, I guess, existence. If you can get Castleton into foul trouble early, this has kind of been the remedy of beating Florida for the past 3 years. Yeah. And that really hasn't changed much. Like I said, they're 75, really kind of struggling and stumbling their way through their schedule. I guess it's wide open now, but losses to Florida Atlantic, Xavier, West Virginia in an absolute blowout. They got, I guess not curb stomp, but defeated by 21 points by UConn, which one of the best teams in the country. But losing to Oklahoma, they've really not had any Power 5 impressive, even close games, for that matter, really. And it's going to be tough tough work for them, because it doesn't get any easier when you get into SEC play. And starting off with Auburn has got to be the biggest kick in the teeth you could have from that perspective. When you flip around to the Auburn side, from Bruce Pearl's group's perspective, we talked about this when we recapped the Washington game. Auburn's coming off of its biggest game, biggest win of the year to this point, and that's just a matter of fact. I didn't think Auburn played all that bad against USC. They were down Wendell Green's, whatever that looked like. Wendell in the first half of the Washington game looked like he was still suffering some injuries, and then the second half he was like, "Never mind, I'm done being injured." And and for Auburn's sake, hopefully he has mended back. But on that note, this is going to be a common theme all year about getting right for Auburn and making sure you take care of business night in, night out. And for that matter, you really don't want to wind up snapping your perfect streak at home to Florida. Guard play. It's that simple. It all starts with the guard play. Wendell's got to play well. He's got to be able to be confident, step up and shoot the ball. KD's got to not get into foul trouble, not make stupid plays, which has been a struggling point to this point in the season for him. Really, it has been. Zep Jasper looked like he might have found a little bit of offense against Washington. I'm not holding my breath. When you move to your forwards, obviously need Flanagan to step up and keep shooting the ball. His broke shot somehow falls. I don't understand. Jalen Williams is going to be week in and week out my most important player on this team. Jalen Williams has been the most consistent player next to maybe Chris Moore, which the fact that I'm saying that is just
I will say if you take out like the Memphis and USC game, I feel like there's an argument for Janai Broome.
I'm getting there. I'm getting to Janai. 100% with you. 100% with you. It starts with Jalen Williams, though, in my opinion. Offensive.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then it does. My next point was going to be Janai Broome, actually. But you got to let Jalen do his thing. Jalen's got to put shots up. He needs to be putting up 7 or 8 from the perimeter a night. I'm going to just live by that, and that's how I'm going to stand. Janai Broome needs to be the Janai Broome that we know he can be.
Yeah. He needs to be the reason that we brought him here.
Not that Memphis or USC bullcrap Janai Broome where it looks like he doesn't know what's going on around him. Dylan Cardwell's really got to make sure that he's playing that second team big man role the way that he showed early this season he's capable of doing. I ate my words at the beginning of this year. Dylan Cardwell in the first 6 games was the most improved player on that team. Yeah. Where that has gone, Dylan's, I guess Zach Blackerby put it to me the best way he possibly could last week. Dylan Cardwell is Dylan Cardwell. And at some point you're gonna have to live with that. He's obviously a spark plug and the energy factor, but stay on your feet. Stay on your feet. From Bruce Pearl's perspective, and this is the last piece, and I know we're going to throw it over to Daniel so he can, I don't want to take too much time, or I'm going to open up the floor to you guys, excuse me, to give your thoughts as well. Timely timeouts. Goodness. Keep the guys fresh, kill momentum. I know that that's kind of been Bruce's shtick to this point. It's just not going to work with this team. You're going to have those heat check timeouts, rotations. Chance Westry can't see the floor. I'm sorry. Johan's minutes really need to be limited. He shows glimpses, and both of those guys are going to get better. But you've got to make the right decision right now. And you know what? If it's a consequence you have to pay with the transfer portal at the end of the year, we'll address that when we get there, right? As long as Auburn plays the brand of basketball they're capable of playing, I think we learned this past week, this team's maybe a little bit better than we thought they were.
Yeah.
I think you hit every nail on the head right there. If you want me to sum it up for you, what Tarr said is keep momentum, don't let Colin Castleton get hot, and give the ball to your playmakers.
Don't foul.
Yeah, don't foul. Play better. Play good. Play what we can be.
Do the
However,
Auburn thing.
Believe in Auburn and love it is what Tarr said. But just before we go to women's basketball, just going to go around the horn here and just everyone. Let's do a pick'ems. Let's do who you're gonna win, who's gonna win, and points.
Auburn, Florida?
Auburn, Florida.
In the jungle.
In the jungle.
With the current state of Florida basketball.
With the current state of Florida basketball, Tarr. What is going to be the score?
I call last.
Daniel.
Okay, I'll go. Sure. All right. Give me Auburn and give me 80 points for the Tigers and give me 62 points for the Gators. That feels right. Actually, no, I take that back. Let me keep my Auburn 80, but I'm going to downgrade Florida to 55.
All right. Based on, I feel like Tarr's about to pick 100-0 based on his reaction to that. But I'm gonna go. Let's go with Auburn 95, Florida 60.
95-60. You think it's gonna be a 35-point blowout in an SEC game?
Dude, I'm with it.
I'll tell you what.
Colin Castle's gonna score all 60 points before he fouls out.
You're probably not wrong there. Game lead. I'll give you a little bonus caveat side prop. Game leading scorer is going to be Colin Castleton, followed by Jalen Williams. And Castleton's going to have somewhere around 20 to even be in this one. But guys, you're never going to hear me say Auburn 80 plus in any game this year. That's what I was laughing at. I think it's very possible that this is a 20-plus point win. I like Auburn like 72-58 in that ballpark, a little closer than it probably should be. I'm probably never going to pick this team to score 80 points. It's just not what they do. And the defense, if you're racing to 70 every game, really 65, if you win the race to 65, you're going to win every game. You're going to almost every single time. You're going to win that game.
Let me just point out what I tell all of my followers on Instagram whenever I make a pick 'em and I just pick someone to just kill someone. I'm like, maybe my score's wrong, but my heart's in it. It's kind of what I wanted to do. So, and just moving on to women's basketball, Auburn opens up their SEC play at the Pavilion, which is in Oxford, Mississippi, where they will play Ole Miss. Auburn has had a good streak of beating Ole Miss as of late, except for in the football game. But Auburn women's basketball is kind of on a hot streak right now. And I'll open the floor to Daniel to preview this game.
Let's do it. So, like you said, Auburn is on a hot streak, having, I believe, 7 or 8 in a row under their belt. They'll travel over to Oxford on Thursday. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. I think this is an SEC Network game. So, obviously, you have 3 players to watch for Auburn: Aisha Coulibaly, honestly, Scott Grayson, and Sydney Shaw. Let's see what we got here. Sorry, I was not prepared until I am now prepared. No, not yet. Okay. All right. Yep. No. Hold on. Tarr, talk. Okay, no, don't talk. Okay. Aisha Coulibaly shooting .429 from the field. Honestly, Scott Grayson, .479 from the field. Sydney Shaw, .417 from the field. So keep doing what you're doing. Shoot your threes. Get the ball inside. Don't foul. You'll win.
Yep.
I muted myself now.
All right, Daniel, you want to elaborate on any of that?
No, I'll let Tarr do it.
Daniel covered the bases. I mean, it's that simple. Ole Miss is the most middle of the road SEC women's basketball program you can find. I mean, they are the definition of average. The problem here is in the years past, and at least recent memory, Auburn's not even been on the same ballpark as average.
Yeah.
This team's different. This is the deepest team that Auburn's had since probably 2008. Statistically, this team is on pace to put up the same numbers that 2008 31 or 32 win team, Final Four team had. Drop those expectations now. this team's very, very young. The size is not where you want it to be. You don't know about Aisha Coulibaly's health and the state of her injury, alleged injury, speculation injury. Reading between the lines there. But between losing your probably best player in Aisha Coulibaly indefinitely, not knowing when she'll return. Romy Levy's tall. She plays a better forward than she plays a big. Precious Johnson's tall. She can't really score inside, and she kind of gets foul happy. But this group of freshmen, and that backcourt, and I mean, honestly, Scott Grayson is her. We've known this. Sydney Shaw, and y'all can write this down, and I'm hoping that when this podcast really kind of hits the moon, we can look back at this in a couple years and say, damn, Tarr was right. Sydney Shaw might wind up being the best player in the SEC by the end of her tenure here. Best guard, I feel comfortable saying in that conversation, being a first team all SEC guard. This team can shoot better than any team I've seen with my own eyes. But at the same time, defense is hit and miss. The strategy's there. I mean, like the commitment to pressure defense and switching between that 2-3 zone and man on man and I guess trap defense for that matter is there. Size is a question mark. That being said, I like Auburn to win this one. I really do.
All right, and just go around the horn again. Daniel, who's going to win and points?
Auburn 86-75. Feels right.
Tarr?
I like that one. I like Auburn 84-77.
I'm going to keep it real simple. Auburn 80-70. Little 10-point win.
I like that.
But with that, look out for the Tigers to go 1-0 on the 28th and 1-0 on the 29th as they open up SEC play, and hopefully starting undefeated in SEC play. So with that ends today's episode of the College Loop Podcast. Thank you all for listening. I am Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. To my left is
Harrison Tarr, the Auburn Daily at by Harrison Tarr on Twitter.
And below us is
Daniel Locke at Daniel J Locke at Daniel J Locke. Yeah.
Thank you. And that's been the College Loop Podcast. Thank y'all.